Psychotechnologies live.
Live. Woo.
We're changing, there's it's got a drawn out psychotech and then like a small live at the end.
Psychotechnologies live.
Transformation of
Yeah, different vibes.
yeah.
We're changing.
Yep.
Do you think there's like a correlation between like how we start off and then how the episode goes? Like, do you think it's a microcosm?
There's definitely like we talked last time and we seem to have a quiet energy. We talked about that after, that we seem to like chill out and relax. And you said it was me, I said it was you. It was probably both of us, but like, yeah. I guess we're going to talk about states of and states and energy, right?
Yeah. Okay. I always love talking about that. I gotta get my baby away to some lady. She seems nice. So yeah, states and energies and stuff.
Yeah. So here we are, we're asleep, we're leaning on our hand. And there's some embodied experience of this posture that says, I lean on my hand and I'm like, oh, I'm being the tired one now. Right. So there's something physical that influences the an experiential state as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, like I think it's a what do they call it? A feedback loop. Like it's they feed off each other.
Right. The physical orientation of the body and the mental state sort of feed off each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I find with that, like people never get like how it works, right? Like they're always like it means nothing or it means everything.
This is the classic power poses, right? Power poses mean everything. Yeah. Make the powerful whatever pose and then you'll feel so
power pose, like that's the difference between winners and losers, is
power pose.
Well, they can do power poses.
Right, and there's something here that is clearly stupid, right? Because everyone can stand like this and be like, it's not working, right? But then also,
can they?
anyone can stand like this and be like, it doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
and then at the same time,
are they lying?
There's a way to like lean into it. Well, there's a way to lean into it better and like do this in a way that actually straightens me up and wakes me up a bit. And obviously, if you are already skeptical, this is the struggle in psychology when you are trying to test your psychological theory and do it from a completely objective place. It's really hard to do because I am included in the psychology. And so when I ask the question, do you like eating sugar to in my survey, then I'm included. And so if I demonize sugar, like I'm like, do you like eating sugar? I point at thee and I say thee bad.
Like, I'm not a sugar eater, no, sir.
Right. Whereas I'm like, if I'm like, working with little kids, right? Do you like sugar?
Do you like sugar?
Like, yeah, I love sugar. They're just kids do the thing where they try and give you the right answer anyway. They guess the password. That's the rationality community calls it guessing the teacher's password. But kids do it all the time, right?
Yeah. This is a lot of the studies now, though, they use recording. So like it's the same every time.
It doesn't stop people from projecting their own crap onto the recording.
Yeah.
But it's a bit better than not recording.
Well, I think that's like, to me, that is psychology. Like people always like trying to get rid of like the placebo effect. And like the placebo effect is psychology. So if you're doing the psychology experiments, like you want a placebo because that's what you're studying. Like, I mean, it's like if an experiment was going to like have a placebo effect, study the placebo effect. you know, you kind of got to do that in order to study it.
I realize, of course, that it would be very interesting to look at the placebo effect from a psychotechnologies lens. What's actually going on? Can we like what's can I try and put a bit more of a box around what's going on with the placebo effect from a psychotechnology lens?
I love the placebo effect.
Yeah, big fan.
It's just free feeling good.
As in like using a placebo can sometimes get you stuff for free in a way that
Yeah.
um,
Like,
you need energy, you need to burn something, or you need to convert from something, or
yeah, like the amount of times people are like, oh, like don't enjoy that, it's just the placebo effect. And I'm like, like, okay.
I'm just gonna enjoy it because it's the placebo effect.
Like, I don't know if it is or not, but I'm just enjoying it, and that's fine. I think it's when, yeah, like it becomes a problem when you try to derive reality or give advice and stuff.
What do you mean by derive reality?
Well, like, I mean, just on a very basic level, if you're doing like medical stuff and you need to have like a base rate, a baseline where you give people the placebo because people will get better from placebos.
Mhm.
But this is the thing that really bugs me, is that like that makes sense, like when you're doing like, does this chemical affect on a physiological level, like you need to cancel out the placebo, but like why don't we sell placebos as medication?
Well, we do have naturopathy, which seems to be sugar pill.
Naturopathy is very similar.
Yeah, there is something other than placebo because naturopathy is trying to give you something.
A lot of, well, naturopathy I think is a widespread, but let's say like homeopathy or something.
Homeopathy. That's what I meant. Homeopathy. They are trying to give you something despite claiming that it, you know, they're not trying to give you nothing. Whereas placebo, I'm gonna call it placebo mancy. It's quite literally giving you nothing, right?
Yeah, I would love to do this. Like I had this idea like a while ago where we just sell medication and it's placebos, and you get,
Placebo medication.
huh?
So they're
Yeah.
like white tablets of various shapes and sizes, and
Well, different colored tablets depending on what you want.
oh, just colors.
Well, so that's the thing. Like you can do everything that, like, you can't do, like everything that like regular medicine you can't really do. You
don't
just
want
do
any
all
active
of that.
ingredients.
Huh?
You don't want any active ingredients as best you can.
Yeah, no active ingredients, right? It's all like sugar pills or whatever. I don't know what they put in.
Even sugar, like you got to be careful. That's an active ingredient sometimes.
Yeah, so I don't know what.
Got to go for like, I mean, slightly less active than sugar is probably like maybe oil and maybe even like, I guess you've got there's a couple of indigestible things like
Just like fiber, like it's just fiber.
right. Fiber technically, so you don't eat the fiber, your gut bacteria eats the fiber, right? That's why we feed
Right.
fiber. And so it still does have an effect, but there's got to be like if I fed you chalk, like a tablet containing only chalk, it probably wouldn't do anything. Looking for something really inert, or like maybe like a grain of ceramic or something that like it just didn't do anything.
Yeah,
You wouldn't want to
know.
find
This
it
seems like,
out or something.
yeah, this moves into like actual like biology or medicine or something.
There must be something that's inert enough. I
Yeah,
guess
so like,
funnily
so
enough,
like,
chickens or like birds eat grit and they hold it in their stomach to digest things like bits of grit.
yeah, they'll use
So
like
you can't even like, what if you fed a human grit? Would it become a useful digestive thing a little bit? Obviously, this isn't common. We don't do this.
there are some people that do.
Huh.
Like there's some like weird, like, I don't want to say weird, some like
Right.
random small villages or something where they eat like rocks and stuff.
Right. Okay. So pretending we can find a completely inert placebo pill, you would put it in a bottle. You would claim it. This is
so yeah. So you do, like, first off you do it, and then you say like it's backed by all this science, and you really hard nail that science angle, because guess what? Placebos are backed by science.
Yeah. Yeah.
and then you do like the different packaging. So like you can have like sleeping pills, like relaxing or calming, and those are like that light shade of blue. And the package, it's important that the package has like people like going to sleep and really like that. And then you can have like energy placebo, where like you take it and it like gives you all this energy, and like you have like people like lifting weights or climbing mountains, and it's like like really red or something.
Image of various placebos.
Yeah, and you just have like a whole like manufactured placebos, and like it's backed by science, and you have like warning labels and stuff. like don't take more than 2 or else you'll get super hyper. And like on active ingredients, it's just like nothing. It's just placebo. Yeah, I think that would be great, and especially if you can add like a little flavoring in, so like maybe like spicy for the little bit of spice for like the active, and then maybe I don't know what flavor calms you down, but like
I like this lavender, like peppermint, the cooling flavors.
yeah, maybe something like that.
Just like a tint. Like you could probably put a smelling thing in the bottle, like if you got if you got a piece of paper and you dropped the perfume on it and you hole punched it and you put one hole punch into each bottle.
Yes.
Like
yes, you put it in the packaging.
Smell the bottle.
Not on the pill. You put it outside the pill.
Right. And so you could smell the bottle and be like, this does smell like peppermint tea calming or something. And then you try it and it'd be like, it doesn't really taste like that so much.
No, but you have to swallow it. The point is
right.
Like, you write instructions like swallow the pill, don't taste it.
Right.
And like have maybe like a small like mindfulness thing, like feel it go down your throat when it lands in your stomach. You're not going to feel anything and nothing's happening, but a lot of people start to feel, and then you just say like whatever you want them to feel.
Procedure for taking tablet.
Yeah. And you can have like anecdotal things on it, right? Because like people are into that.
Well, interestingly, if you ritualize a process, right? So this is the 3 p.m. siesta thing, right? Some people like really sort of pass out. And then there was I don't know if this happened in Canada where you are, but there was like a brand of soup that marketed themselves as the 3 p.m. soup. So like cup of soup, sort of like powder packets. So you're in the office, you're falling asleep, and they're like, this soup is the soup for the 3 p.m. like crash to help you get through the rest of the day. And they really they did it quite well because they marketed it for that crash. And then you have the soup and then you feel better, even though it's just like all that you did was get up from your desk, have a glass of water and soup,
Like that's a real thing, like an excuse to get up and go around and do things.
That's right.
Like that's real.
So in the ritual of getting up and doing the thing, maybe you solved half your problem.
Yeah.
Someone was telling me this,
but we should sell that ritual.
Yeah, for sale. Magic pills.
Yeah,
call the magic. That's not scientific enough.
No. You don't say magic, right? Well, okay, so you could do like magic pills if you wanted, but I think
you could probably just make up a trade name and call them like.
Yeah, but just say placebo. Like, is that like I don't know if you can say there like some variation on it.
Yeah. So there's I don't know if you heard this was a while ago. Someone tried to sell their soul on eBay.
No, but there was a whole Twitter thing.
Oh, there was?
Yeah, there's someone on one of the people I follow on Twitter. I should really source her, but I can't remember her name right now. I think it's hard to tell on Twitter, but she's like just buying people's souls. So she she sets up contracts, and like $20 she'll buy your soul.
Okay, I guess.
And she's like, atheist, you don't believe in souls, just sell them to me.
Sure. I mean, well, so the thing I was going to mention, someone tried to sell their soul on eBay, and eBay sort of responded, either souls are real and therefore they are personal property and you can't sell like your organs or humans or pets. You can't sell pets on eBay, right? You can sell like peripherals, like a blender or like dog food, but you can't sell the dog, right? So either they're real and so you can't sell them, or they're not real, and so you're selling something that's fake, and you're not allowed to sell fake things on eBay either. Or you're not allowed to be false and misleading in your eBay listing. So sorry, we can't let you sell it on eBay either way.
Yeah.
So
That's
I think that's quite funny, and I mention it because I wonder what sort of difficulty you might have with the regulations in terms of selling something that was deliberately a placebo, particularly if you're claiming that it does. You got to be careful what you claim, right? Because and especially if you're claiming that it doesn't do anything or that it's explicitly the placebo, then maybe you're not allowed to sell it because it doesn't do anything. But although that seems okay, but it does do. But then you're claiming it does something, and so then
and you back it up with evidence.
Tested. It needs to go through like trials and stuff.
I don't even know if you need to, because like every experiment that's been run for the last, I don't know. Like
that's true. There should be a scientifically established basis behind the placebo.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just the curiosity of, are you going to run into if it's true, if you're claiming a truth, but if you're claiming a falsehood, then are you going to run into that same problem? And maybe not.
I don't think you should, because I think it's like the effect is backed by science. Like it's probably the most like scientific, like it's probably the most scientifically stable thing that we know of. Like I don't know every single experiment, but it's the most studied phenomenon in medicine.
I feel like what you want to do is you want to be like selling your placebo pills for a couple of years, and then you want to come out with new and improved the green pill.
Yeah. And you could do that. It's like this has like vague feel good properties that like just help you feel healthier.
I like that. What you could do is you could, with phones, how they make the like 10, and then they make the 11, and then they make the 12. You could just pills, right? Yeah. Pill number 30, and then you could pill number 40, like they do with the phones, and then like pill number 1,000, 2,000, 5,000. Just keep going.
Yeah, and you could have ones that you're not sure if it's going to work or not. You're like, hey, this is an experimental one.
That's great. Just like, please report your status when you take this placebo pill.
Yeah. And like a lot of what that does is it like kind of forces people to just notice how they're feeling.
Right.
And like
an exercise in mindfulness.
Yeah. And like very that's powerful. Real. This is my genius plan. And like, I don't know, like I guess I don't know if you need to go through like FDA or something like that, but
depends how much you're claiming.
Because it's not a drug. It kind of is.
Right. If you're claiming that it can cure cancer, you'll have to go through the FDA. But if you're claiming like mild improvement of mood, or like some sources say, mild improvement, then you probably don't. You can probably get away without.
Yeah. And the trick is to get it. I think a big one is like in the drug marts is to get it next to the real medication. You want to get in the real medication.
Right. It needs to look like it's in a real medicine bottle.
Yeah.
It can't look like it's just like a candy jar. It really needs to look like
Yeah.
You might have difficulty with that one because often the regulations don't like confusing medications with non-medication. But you can maybe look a way around that.
So that's the thing is like I think this startup needs someone who understands like the regulations around this, because if they can get this, if they can get this pushed through like as a medication backed by all this evidence, and then you only make true claims.
Right. Well, there's plenty of claims to make within the truth.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff you could do, and you could just select which claims you're going to use per placebo package. I guess you probably can't call it placebo. That's probably.
I think I'm most excited by the idea of making many people angry about it.
And very controversial medication, right? Like that just adds to the effect.
Adds to the
a lot of people don't want you to have access to this.
Yes.
And not all drugstores are going to carry it. And like, you know what I mean? Like you just like the more cheap, they fight
effective, it. We're trying to get it out there and it just keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah. And you know what? Maybe we could just do it online. Like this is the medication that the drugstores won't sell you.
Mm.
And
Yep.
there's all the scientific data. We can start as like a conspiracy online. Actually, that's probably pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm like, there's like 10% of my mind is like, oh, I could pull this off. And then 90% of me is like, I got better shit to do. Or like 80% is like, I got better shit to do. And 10%
That's the
is like,
problem. Yeah,
this is a bad idea. Most of me is like, is not saying it's a bad idea. Most of me is just like, yeah, I got better things to do. But actually, I think this would go all right.
What?
I think it would go all right. Got to work out like, what would you actually put in the placebo pill that wasn't meant to do it?
I just look up whatever they usually use as placebo.
You can do you can get
like someone else has already solved this problem.
Yeah, maybe. You can get the veggie gel capsules that they usually put like powders in. You can get them and just have them empty.
Veggie gel capsules.
So sometimes they have like a white tablet that is like pressed into shape, right? And sometimes they have more like a capsule that is like
it's like pills and capsules.
Yeah. So the capsule, but you can do the capsules, but fill it with nothing.
We have to fill it with something, or else it's just air. Like
well, you can color them. Sometimes they make them like red and blue and whatever colored. You don't have to fill it with anything, do you?
Or you know what else you could do? You can get like you ever take Concerta or like those time release capsules?
Oh.
So you can just get those and not fill them, but they're more expensive on the manufacturing side. Or you could probably fill it with water, to be honest, or like a thick water or something.
Well, the trouble
I don't know. Like I don't know if I want to try to solve this problem because somebody else is already like every study uses placebos, so you just order a bunch of placebos, right? They probably make them whatever shape. Like you can probably just order that.
The tricky thing with water is that water usually dissolves things. Like if it's in a gel capsule, you can't put water. You got to put oil. But I'm sure you're right. Someone's made placebo pills.
Yeah, there's probably some inert oil as well. Or like switching the oils. Like when I found out, like the first time I heard of oregano oil, I got really excited because I thought it was like a cooking thing. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like you can distill the oregano into like or like squeeze the oil or whatever and get like can add like flavor your food and stuff. But apparently that's not what it's actually used for.
Okay, so there exists for sale some placebo pills, but they're surprisingly expensive.
Oh shit! Someone already beat us to this.
It's like $100, $80. Like it's not a cheap 40 for like a bottle.
1,000, 100.
I don't know how many in a bottle.
Yeah, a lot of the pills, the expense on the pills is the manufacturing it.
Well, it's not. You can manufacture pills for like 1 cent each.
Is that true?
You just need to like there's a machine that mushes material into like the shape and produces a pill, right? And it's however fast you can run that machine, the cost of electricity to do that, and the cost of the raw materials. Most of the cost of vitamin tablets, I think, is the markup.
Yeah, most of it is also the markup. I don't know. I bet there's someone that can manufacture. Like someone's got to be using placebos for something. Like actors or something, like when they in movies, because they probably don't want to give people drugs, but they want them to take pills sometimes.
Oh, that's interesting. There's a placebo inhaler.
Oh. Damn, someone's already beaten us to this. Placebo inhaler is good.
Well, because part of the ritual of grabbing your inhaler and go might be helpful, even if you don't get a medication with it.
Yeah.
It's for this is for education scenarios. So I guess for teaching first aid, to make you understand how the thing works.
Yeah. How much do they cost?
That's like $13. I don't know what currency, but $13 for a placebo inhaler.
Yeah, so we could like mark it up to like 30.
Look, I think if you sell placebo pills at $10 or $20 a bottle, like or you
What?
sell big bottles and small bottles at different whatever.
Yeah, the smaller bottle, they're all $20, and then the big bottles, the smaller bottles are more potent placebos.
Amazing. I was thinking more like travel size bottle of placebo, but that's okay. We could go for more potent.
Yeah,
10 times as effective.
well, because there is a correlation to how much money you spend on something and how much
Right.
you value or how much you enjoy it.
Right.
Like,
I like the idea of a more potent placebo.
yeah, you charge more for that, and then you have to have
like dishwashing detergent, right? You just buy ultra concentrate.
yeah, and then you put on like premium and stuff,
right,
like or extra strength, right?
I'm keen for the idea of like a nighttime placebo and writing may cause drowsiness if taken during the day.
Yeah, like warning labels: don't take during the day, don't take before heavy machinery or anything like that.
Amazing.
And then what else? What's interesting is that like if people are going to try to debunk it, it's like a knowledge hazard.
There's nothing.
So it would be unethical to debunk it,
right?
Or to like have people demonstrate that it's actually not, doesn't do anything.
I wonder how much a pill press actually costs.
And then you can do commercials. I bet it would come down to like the commercials and the marketing.
Oh yeah, the marketing. It's all marketing at this point.
Yeah. You can like market the shit out of it, like do like YouTube sketches or like, and like having that like very like, there's nothing in it, but it has an effect. If you think it has an effect, do you think it has an effect? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Only one way to find out.
It's cheap. Might as well try it.
Yeah.
You remember this one? I talked about this one the other week. The snore ring.
Yeah.
They're like, as I said, the eBay listing is like, what have you got to lose for $5? Like,
yeah, that would be like the cheap stuff that we sell. Be like, what do you have to lose? And we can have like suggested rituals.
Yeah, like process.
Yeah, it's like that guy that sold, the pet rock thing?
Oh. Huh.
Do you remember that stuff?
I know of pet rock things. Wow, a clip press is quite expensive.
So like that's like all marketing. Like he had like a good story, and got supply chain down, and like he found that niche of like people wanting to get presents for people that they don't know what they want. It's like those things that make good gifts, like to give but not to receive.
That's so Japan has the like the square watermelons.
Yeah,
watermelons because it's like a inverse effect. If you spend a lot of money on a usual cheap item like soap, right? Soap is like $1. But if you spend a lot of money on it, like $20 on a soap, you're like, this must be magical soap. Well, if you spend $20 on a watermelon, you're like, this must be a magical watermelon. Like, it's a highly prized after.
Yeah. It's people like, it's like more sophisticated, or people appreciate it more, something when you buy an expensive version of something. So it doesn't really matter how much money you're spending. It matters how much you're spending relative to how much the thing should cost. So like a $20 soap is going to be like more, I guess, sophisticated than like a $30 deli plate or something.
I'm surprised how much a pill press costs. It's on the order of $1,000.
Yeah, we wouldn't do this ourselves. Just
hire someone else.
Have like India or China, something, or Laos.
Well, you got to be quality controlled, and especially if you want to like, this is a marketing thing. So if you want to claim organic and homemade, or like, made in Canada, Australia, whatever, you gotta actually make it in these countries.
Yeah, but no, you create the story, you create the products, and then you create the story around it. So you find out who's doing this, and then you just find out some of their what about their company is. And you could ask them to like bless it or something, right? Like, oh, is there anyone of any religious persuasion that works there? And if they say yes, then you say, well, what's the religion, and can they do a religious ritual around it? So if it's like Buddhist, do Buddha prayer. If it's Hindu, do some thing, whatever, like Jewish, Islam, whatever, it doesn't matter. Right? As long as someone does something that's like exotic sounding, like something that like your people don't know, your customers don't know what that is. And then you just craft the story, and then you find whatever ritual, and then you look it up online, you're like, oh, this is like this, that, and then you have the story around that. And they're popping the story. Which I think is mostly like a lot of times people take medications. It's like they're taking the story, they're not taking the pill.
Right. Yeah. Well, with vitamins, we believe that they will work, and so we take them.
Yeah.
Turns out
if you believe
they have a chemical effect
too,
too.
Work. And if you bought it, then you believe it works. So it works. So it only works if you buy it. If you just like steal it or something, like it doesn't
works when you take it.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to do that for the placebo product? It doesn't work unless you've actually paid for it.
Yeah, you have to pay for it. You have to take it. If someone slips into your coffee, it's not going to do anything.
Right. You have to. It has to be a consented placebo.
Yeah, and it would be hard disproving it, because like, what are you going to do?
How are you gonna?
What placebo are you going to use against it? Right, we could prove that like our stuff is better or worse than the placebo, or than nothing. But yeah, you could easily get that on that for sure, especially the way science is done nowadays. If they let you do it, that's the thing. Science, they have all the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers decide what's allowed to be tested and what's not. That way they get the results that they want.
Right. I'm watching. I've looked up pill presses, and I'm watching how they work. Like, oh, interesting. Is it worth doing this? Wild.
Yeah. Pill presses are cool. Back in the day, they used to make like the chemists, like the drugstore, whatever.
Compounding chemists. They used to mix up and make things. They still exist.
It's so regulated now, though. Like, you can't just make your own medication. They still exist, but it's so regulated. Like what
there is sometimes you need like a diluted form of a medication.
Yeah.
And I only know my jurisdiction in Australia here, and there's like, there's hundreds of chemists around, but maybe 1 in 20 or 30 have a compounding chemist whose job it is to mix up the and like control the dosage, right? So they can dilute a medication, and they're the ones who are allowed to take an existing thing, dilute it, and then give it to you in a bottle, cream, jar, whatever. So they do exist here.
Yeah, I have relatives that do that. Like they own a pharmacy or something. I don't really know. I'm not close to them. But like it's like I'm like, oh, can you like make me some acid? And they're like, no, we're not allowed to do that.
I think acid's kind of tricky to make.
Acid is, yeah. That's like
one of those.
It's like high level chemistry. It's not like math.
Search the internet for the anarchist cookbook and like find the recipe, and then even so, if you screw it up, it's a really bad trip.
I think acid requires very expensive equipment.
I thought it requires one or another chemical that is sort of controlled. Like it's like how I at one point I got really interested in Teflon. Teflon is the thing they coat frying pans with. But like it's a fascinating little molecule, but other than being nearly a CFC, like a pollutant, really bad pollutant, Teflon is also really close to the chemical you need to make chloroform. And so they don't want to sell it because they don't want people to have access to chloroform. And so it's a very, very controlled, other than the fact that it's also like patented. And so super secret technology. They don't want to make it easy for people to get because it's very close to chloroform. And this sometimes
happens. Patented, it wouldn't be secret because you could just look up the patents. Like Coca-Cola is not patented.
Good point. Good point. I'm not sure now. Can't remember, but I remember it like having these difficulties. I was like, I want some to play with. I want to coat stuff with it. Teflon has electron properties that are unlike anything else, like electrostatic and like repels water.
It's like repulsive, right? But it also
so
it's not stick, but it has to stick to the frying pan.
That's right. So the stick to the frying pan. The shape of the molecule is very good at repelling the bond angles or something. I don't really remember. I'm very rusty on my chemistry, but I was fascinated at one point, and I was like, I want some to like play with. And turns out it's really hard to get because it's very close to chloroform.
There's you can make. I'm surprised at that because you can make. I think I don't know if we're allowed to talk about
Mustard
this.
That's just bleach and vinegar.
No, it's maybe it's
bleach and ammonium. Sorry.
Yeah, bleach and ammonium, which are just like cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
So if you like fuck out, then you could kill yourself. Yeah, that's why we're allowed to talk about it, because you can't mix cleaning supplies unless you know what you're doing.
Yes,
because you could kill yourself and everyone else in the building.
Yeah.
So yeah, like gas, I don't know, like poisonous gas isn't hard to make. So like, and chlorine is available because like anyone who has a pool has access to it.
Right.
I got that on my shirt once because I used to be a lifeguard. So,
well, bleach is also chlorinated bleach is.
Are they the same chemical?
Good thing I have Google right next to me.
Yeah, I got chlorine on my shirt once. It's like just like a drop and like the whole like the shirt, like it ruined the shirt.
It like eats biological.
Yeah.
So cotton gets eaten very easily.
If your bathing suit, like if you swim a lot and you don't wash your bathing suit afterwards, then your bathing suit like gets faded very quickly. If you swim like a pool.
Looks like there's something sold as bleach that is actually peroxide, and something that's sold that's as bleach that is hypochlorite, so chlorine. So there are two different things sort of going under the name bleach, depending on probably your country as well.
Yeah, bleach is a real word. Is a real weird word because it's not a specific chemical. Like to bleaching is
interesting. To bleach is to like whiten or like somehow
something like that,
drain away the color of.
Yeah, so they bleach like flour and they bleach rice, but they don't use like bleach for that.
Sun-bleach things, obviously. You put something in the sun and it gets sun bleached.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways to bleach things that aren't the thing we call bleach, but that means that like the things that they use to bleach it are called bleach, even though they're not the things that we call bleach.
Interesting. I didn't. I somewhere in my head I must have known that, but I hadn't put it together. That's why I was always not sure about which one's which.
Yeah, it's like when like this is like one of those like, you know, when the hippie things and stuff, and they're like, oh, I don't eat like you know they bleach your bread or the flour, and like when you're younger you're like thinking about like the bleach in your cupboard and like the food, and you're like, what? But it's not that at all.
Looks like having Googled how do they bleach flour, benzyl peroxide and nitrogen peroxide and chlorine. So like there are
kind of, I guess
they use chemicals, but obviously if they weren't food safe, we wouldn't be using them.
Yeah, I don't know about
like
that.
If they weren't edible, they would be ill-advised for people to. Yeah, we're not using the one that can eat through clothes.
I actually don't. Is that true? I actually don't know.
Well, it did say chlorine bleach, but obviously not in the concentration that. And like there's chlorine and sodium chloride in table salt. Like there's some chloride there.
That's true.
So the chlorine isn't the problem. It's the like the form it's in and the concentration.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I don't really know a lot about food chemistry.
Oh, well, that's an interesting sentence.
Like in this way. I know
This,
like the practical stuff in the kitchen.
This website, which is the first one on Google that I clicked on, says that unbleached flour or bleached flour is easier to process, maybe because it sticks together less or something. Bleached flour is easier to process than unbleached. As in, like, that's why we bleach it, so that it's easy to work with. Fascinating. Maybe it also does something to the glutinous structure. There you go, side tangent. So states, placebos, how we bleach flour. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something like definitely like the placebo in states and stuff is like a thing. The truth is I do use that in general. Because like it's also aesthetics, right? Like placebo is also aesthetics, I think.
As in, like, it has to have a good marketing behind it, otherwise you don't believe it.
Well, you look at something, you're like, oh, this does that. Like it's just like whatever that initial flash is. And then you like carry that with you and you sort of force it or make it or
I'm drawn to the like the new age aesthetic. And there was this is a couple of years ago, there was an article or a proposal that
the new age aesthetic.
Part of the aesthetic of the new age hippie shit. Clearly I lack respect for the new age hippie shit. But part of the aesthetic is a threshold that must be overcome that confirms we can fit with the narrative, or like if we're willing to overcome certain marketing things, like we're willing to make the label these colors, and we're willing to use a rather expensive packaging material to make our product, that means that we can signal that it's this valuable, which means that the product is probably also this valuable too.
Yeah.
And so there's some benefit to the aesthetic, even though it's trashy, annoying, and extra expensive, because it signals the quality.
Yeah.
Or implies the quality at least.
Yeah, but that's why I think, like, that's why I don't like it, and that's why I think a lot of other people don't like it.
Oh yeah, I absolutely don't like it.
Yeah, like if you're spending all this time and effort signaling, like I don't believe you. You know what I mean? Like your product should speak for itself, and I do get like sales and marketing is real, and like I'm not going to buy something that I've never heard of, obviously, like that I don't have access to, that no one's selling to me.
Well,
but
I don't know if you remember the light bulb thing. There was light bulb packaging. One of the big light bulb manufacturing companies commissioned a study as to if they should improve the quality of their light bulb packaging to like protect their light bulbs to get to the consumer. And the study came back that actually they should downgrade their packaging quality because there are not enough breakages, and they're actually spending too much money on packaging. And if they spent less money on packaging and just accepted occasional light bulbs break, then they would be better off. They would make more money.
That's funny.
Yeah. So, I want the packaging that is not over the top for a freaking light bulb. I want just enough. And sometimes they break. Okay.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yes.
But it's funny, like you're putting too much protection in it. Like
I like these. I collect these stories that are surprising. Like the narrative actually spun the other way.
Yeah.
Spending too much on packaging.
Yeah, that's like it's like the plane one where the planes come back and they have that.
Right.
They have like a distribution of.
Is there a name for that effect?
I forgot what it's called. I always forget what it's called. I know the punchline, but I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah. Let me see if we get the name. Survivorship bias, I guess.
Yeah, that's the punchline.
Right. So you send your World War One, World War Two.
World War II, because they always say it with Feynman, I think.
Okay. Yeah. World War II then. You send your planes out to war, and some of them come back. and some of them come back with bullet holes in them, and so
There's
you
like a
obviously
distribution. All the planes that come back, they have bullet holes. All the bullet holes are in the same place. More
right.
like,
So you're obviously like, well, we need to protect the places where the bullets hit them, right? We need to
yeah. So like, what do you do about that, right? Like, where do you put the extra armor on the
right.
plane?
And obviously, if you put too much armor, then it doesn't fly very well. So you got to like limit your armor. And so your initial theory is to put the armor where the bullet holes are, right? Because that's where they got shot. But
That's where you're getting shot.
when you think about it for a couple more seconds, you realize that some of the planes didn't come back. And the planes that didn't come back are the ones that got shot in the other places.
Yeah.
And fell out of the sky, right?
Yeah.
So what you should really do is put extra armor in the places that these planes didn't get shot.
Everywhere that didn't get shot, that's where you put armor.
Yeah, because planes can still fly with a bunch of holes in them, except for in the holes in the important places.
Yeah. There was
it's a reverse survivorship bias. It's like the reverse of what you were expecting.
Yeah, war is cool for this stuff. I mean, not that war is good; it's obviously bad. But there's a lot of things we can learn from it. The other one is the helmets. After I think it was the British issued helmets, and I want to say World War One. They like the amount of head injuries that happened like spiked.
Oh, with the helmets.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
so like, oh no, there's something wrong with our helmets. All of these head injuries.
Oh, like helmets cause brain injuries. And
this is very bad. We need to take all the helmets back.
And they do cause brain injuries because all the people that don't wear helmets just die from head wounds.
Right. So it turns out that helmets take your casualties and turn them into head injuries, which is an expensive choice, but also depends if you like your civilians or not. Your compatriots.
Yeah, I mean it's still probably worth it. Or build better helmets is the other one.
Yeah, better helmets as well, if you can. That's so interesting. I hadn't heard the helmet one. Yeah. I'm fascinated by the like, oh, I wasn't thinking like that, and now I have to think like this again.
Yeah, from like a meditation perspective, for me, this survivorship bias is that like the reality that doesn't exist is also important.
Well, the metaphor that I like is that you're tracking a deer through the mud, right? And you have footsteps, and then there's a big rock, and then there's footsteps after the rock. And you can imply that the deer has stepped off of the mud onto the big rock and then onto the mud on the other side.
I think this is different.
Well, you can infer that the deer was in fact in the middle.
Yeah, but I think this is you're hunting a deer, and you know that you realize you're hunting this deer and not the other deer that doesn't exist, or the other animals. Like you're hunting a deer, you're not hunting an elk.
Right.
And like that's because, you know, whatever survivorship bias, like this deer that you're hunting has gotten to the point where you can't hunt it, versus, you know, maybe its siblings or cousins or something didn't actually make it here.
Right.
For you to hunt.
Right.
It's like a privilege to get hunted.
Survivor.
Yeah. Which is interesting because like it's a different take, I think, on a lot of the standard like meditations and stuff are let go of things that aren't real, and like there's only this moment. But like that's not technically true, right? Like that's not totally true. Like it's technically true, but it's not really true.
Well, sometimes I have at this moment that infers that suddenly I know insightfully other stuff as well. And the insight happens in this moment.
Yeah. And I'm not knocking at this moment meditations. I think those are important. Because I think a lot of people do live in their head, and they're not doing the biases. Like they're caught up in the biases. They're not free. They're not understanding reality better by seeing the biases. They're just seeing the biases and sort of like accepting that as real.
There is on the topic of meditation, people often ask, if I'm meant to be here, be in the present, how do I plan? How do I like have a future? Like how do I do things that will happen for the things that will happen later? And there's often a confusion about, or like, how do I think about the past if I have to really be present all the time? And I think that's a fair question, which arises because there's a confusion about what being here is and how to do it. You can be in the present, but be thinking about the past. You can genuinely, we can say, hey, remember what you said 5 minutes ago? And we can knowingly look to the past, or we can alternatively accidentally have a flashback. Remember when we started talking about placebos? Like we can accidentally get off topic and go back there, or we can deliberately go back there. And as long as we are mindful and deliberately going back, it's okay. But when it like blindsides us, as often like intrusive memories do, they're like, remember that mean conversation, that thing you said to your grandma 17 years ago? Like, ugh.
Yeah. I think that's probably a lot of it, where you're like you're trying to do something now, and don't just like fuck off into like some fantasy or memory or something, right? Like do what you're trying to do. And sometimes what you're trying to do is, let's say in the past, like let's say it's collect evidence or find out what happened or break things down. And like, so you're gonna like detectives go back and recreate the past. But like you could have a detective that's just like off in his head and random things. You could have one that's like,
I want to create the be here now detective. He's like, something happened. Guess we'll never know.
that was in the past. We need to focus on the present. It's like, no, your job, your present is to figure out what happened in the past. and then you'll get like, I think they do this in movies a lot, but also like it's kind of real, where you get lost in your thoughts and you're like recreating, and you're somewhere else. Like they do that in movies all the time, where the detectives are there, but then they like show like the ghosts and like what's happening in the past. And to me, that's still present oriented.
Yes,
because they're doing this. Like
right.
This is what they're doing. They're recreating the past.
So the mistake that I would say I see with future, looking towards the future, well, there's a few, but if when you look towards the future, it's bad, right? You anticipate it will be bad. Like, oh no, like great pessimism about the shape of the future.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you make the now miserable.
Right, because there's great pessimism.
Like, fuck you. Now I have to suffer now and later.
Right. And so there's a way to, when you look towards the future, do it skillfully, so you're not looking pessimistically. Sometimes you need to be like, oh, if I do this now, that'll go badly and that'll cause bad things in the future, and so I shouldn't do this now, right? If I drink now, I'll be hungover tomorrow, right? I need to be able to see the hangover tomorrow in order to anticipate that if I drink now, that I shouldn't drink now. So there is sometimes a need to do that skillfully, but ideally we want to be like looking towards the future optimistically, and then drawing back towards the present and be like, I'm on an upwards trajectory to success.
Yeah.
And that's a skillful thing.
And the optimism is not like, oh, things will like just, oh, lady luck will favor me. Which is like, I think a whole thing in and of itself, but
right.
It's because you're looking for what is the positive solution to this, right? Like, what is the most positive outcome you can do,
right? So
that's how you should be planning shit.
So you must maintain that the future is meant to be positive. And so when I look there, I want it to be upwards. And if it's going to be really bad, then I need to stop and reevaluate and back up, right? I need to not do what I'm doing until I find a good future path. Otherwise I should really stop going forward. Right?
Yeah.
And I see sometimes a mistake where people mix up the future will be bad and the future will be good, and there's some confusion. And they're like, why don't I want to go forwards? Oh, it's because the future's bad.
Yeah. So they're just like avoiding because like maybe because if it's inevitable, like if there's something you can do to fix it, then you kind of just want to avoid it.
Mm.
Uh, like things like a train coming at you, you can't do anything but the train, but you can avoid the train. Like just step off the tracks. Like don't try to stop that train.
Right. So
Yeah.
skillful at this point, we talk about skillful operation of the mind, right? I want to be in the present lots of the time. When I look towards the future, I want it to be up. When I look towards the past, I want to be compassionate towards it because I screwed up a bunch of times. I don't want to be beating myself up in the present about the past, and I don't want the future to be miserable. These are like, it's like a whole, in my head, I guess I have a diagram of the like past, present, future, and the like looking up and looking down and just managing.
Yeah. Do you think this is like an all-encompassing or like
this is one of my core psychotechnology I've been like, if I'm trying to write out a syllabus of what are the core models, this is a huge model.
So what's the core model? Let's go
right. So there's one part is separating past, present, and future. So when you're in the past, when we're thinking back, we want to know that we're thinking back. When we're in the present, we want to know that we're present, and when we're in the future, we want to know that we're in the future. So that's the first step, is to separate them and to organize
so
them.
Like to reflect back. So like if I'm watching a movie, when they go back in time, I want them to do nostalgic stuff,
right?
Like that, like different, like the whole thing should be like a different color, so that
it should be like brown, right? Like the olden times when the films were browner.
Past is brown,
yeah.
And the future is like bright or gritty, depending on.
Well, we don't want to force these things, but we want to remember that when we're looking towards the future, we don't want to be pessimistic in the future. We want to be optimistic in the future. We want things to go well. We don't want to be deluded either, but we want to be moving in a positive direction. And so we want to permit ourselves to consider what might be possible in the future. What good things might be possible in the future.
Yeah. So I guess the future we want to look at the lens, see like how is this tinted? Is this bright? Is this dark and gritty? Like what's going on?
And people will block their own creativity by being like, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. If I do that, it won't work. And but what we also might want to do is we might want to look at the past and be like, that was really good. Yesterday, I ate a really delicious ice cream. And so I want to grab it from the past and I want to like do it again. I want to put it in the future. I want more ice cream in the future. But we don't want to confusingly try and go back in time and recreate previous ice cream. We want new good ice cream.
Yeah, because that experience that you've had it and it's over. And it's time to move on. And you can't recreate that experience. But there are elements from that experience that you can recreate.
Right. So there's a sorting past, present, and future. We want to be clear about where we are. And then we want to, the thing about the present is it's often informed by the past and the future. So even though I'm like, oh, I think I'm present, that's the itch on my toe from the ant that bit me yesterday. Like it's still here with me. So I want to sort that out and put that back in the past. And then I want to like, oh, I've got a lot of work to do after this call. And so it's hanging on my shoulders. Well, that's actually in the future. I want to take that off my shoulders and leave it in the future. So I want to sort out my present so I have enough clear space to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So it's about sorting and also checking on how I relate to each of the past, present, and future. Many people never hang out in the present. They're busy in the past and the future.
Yeah.
So some people are only in the future. Some people stick to the past a lot.
The cool thing about the present is that if you take care of the present, the future like doesn't matter as much.
Like, well, the future is taken into account. The future is taken into account.
Yeah, like you don't need to take care of the future as much if you take care of the present. Because when you get there, that like things will be good and as good as they can.
Well,
and you be there to deal with it.
I would say that the worst part is you can't do more than one thing at a time. And so you need to, if you are like looking towards the future, if you're like, oh, I need to plan for the future, you can do that. You can plan, you can write out a big plan. And then usually what happens is we don't follow them.
Yeah.
Or I had it feel like, well, I'm going to take care of the present and I'm going to infer that from the present, the future will be taken care of. Got to make the big inference, right? Because I can only do one thing. I can only take care of the present. And then in doing so, I will assume and I will cause and effect that taking care of the present now means that I will also be doing that in the future.
Yeah. I find for this stuff, like when I'm doing things, I'm in the present. But like sometimes I'll just sit and think about the future. Like that's just what I do.
Yep. And we sort of have an automatic mind whose job it is to consider things and to plan things a little bit. And we want to be able to let that thing go and do its like future plan. Yeah. But then also there's another mistake here of bits of us that want to worry that right, I have to think about the future, I have to worry about the future, I have to like, what if this happens, and I need to ruminate in it for a very long time, right? And there's a mistake there of the like,
I think worrying is there's two reasons why people worry. One is because if they worry, they make themselves feel bad, then that reminder will carry on into they'll feel bad in the future and they'll remember why.
Right.
And then the second one is because it's like a signaling thing, right? If I'm calmly dealing with shit, like if there's serious shit going down and I'm like just calmly making good decisions around it, people will freak out because they're like, you're not taking this seriously. I'm like, I'm taking this very seriously. That's why I'm being calm and making decisions. And you're like, oh, but like, if I don't signal that, like, oh my God, this is so weird. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? And like, people won't let me make decisions around it.
So there's definitely a fear thing next to worry, right? Worry is inspired by, I'm scared about something. I'm scared about it going badly, whatever it is. And so instead of being scared, I'm sitting in worry and I like amplify the worry and I blah, blah, blah myself for a while. But turns out that if I get really close to the fear, I have a different experience. My experience is often my thoughts go very fast. Everything gets very clear. I'm like, this is what I want. And it's like,
or this is what I'm afraid of, or I don't know exactly what I'm afraid of, but I know I need to process something.
It feels like I need it to go like this. I like, you know, my eyes are wider. I'm like, oh, I really need it to go like this. That's closer, rather than being thrown off by the fear. I'm like, oh, this fear is telling me that I have to really be sharp and awake and it has to go exactly like this, or else there's a problem. But obviously we're too busy receiving fear, responding to it. So it makes me fearful, and then I avoid it for 3 days. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to think about this. And I can't sleep very well because I'm up thinking about it.
Good to have a little bit of space between the things that are coming up, like the things that are rising and passing. Like if you have a little bit of space between there, then you make better decisions because you have perspective. You keep perspective.
So this is something I've been sort of working on. I'm really comfortable in the position of having a little bit of space. And like, oh, there's an experience coming up. I notice I am in fear, you know, and the phrase I notice puts a little bit of space in there, right? Because I'm not in the middle of fear, I'm noticing the fear. So I have a little bit of perspective taking. And I'm really good at that. I'm really native in that. I'm less good at the being in the thick of it and the like, I'm in fear and responding right now. And I'm trying to cultivate that one. And I suspect that there's a little bit of masculine and feminine here, where feminine does a greater holding and masculine does a like quicker response. Which is to say that everyone has a little bit of each in their head.
Yeah.
And obviously leans either way, depending on situations and habit.
Yeah. These aren't to reflect people per se.
No.
Or gender expression or anything like that. It's more just these energies.
This habitual tendency, sort of. Masculine really is like masculine speaks before it thinks, and feminine probably thinks before it speaks, has the more of a holding.
I don't know if I'd say it like that. I think one of them is, yeah, like one of them is more like holding versus like reacting or acting or reacting.
Mm.
And because it's the holding is very nurturing.
Mm.
The reacting is very doing.
Right.
And so
And
like obviously you
each of
need
those
both
is
of them.
needed in the real world in different moments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Obviously you shouldn't not like unless you can like find someone else who's the exact opposite, like you're not gonna do 100%. It's like unrealistic, I think, to do 100% of one or the other.
well, I think it's also frustrating if you're permanently in one and you can't ever be in the other.
I think if you got a counterpart, like if you're always in one of them and the other person's always in the other one,
Mm.
and you guys have like a real strong connection and like bond and trust with each other, then you can kind of just get away. I think you can get away with only doing one because
Mm.
you're getting both of them. It's just not you, it's the other half of you.
Right. Your collective support structure is getting both of them, but you embody one and the other person embodies the other.
Yeah, and there's a certain like specialization advantages that happen.
I have a broad theory that good leaders grow into both skills because often leaders have to work with multiple other people, right? So in doing so, you may have to lean more towards one or the other, depending on who you're working with. So a good leader becomes strong in both. But
like a well-rounded leader does that.
Yeah. Well, as in like that's to be a good leader, you need to be well-rounded.
I don't know if that's true, like per se, like exactly. I think that a good leader recognizes the value of all this stuff. And so like a leader doesn't have to have all the skill sets. They just have to have all the skill sets on their team. And so if you're a masculine or feminine or whatever energy, you need to make sure that other half is there.
Right.
And you need to like let that do its thing.
I guess I lean into like self-sufficiency as in and like you can't change other people, but you can change yourself. And so much easier to
that's good leadership
capacities and then know when to use each one than it is to try and expect someone else to hold up a particular capacity all the time.
Yeah. I think that recognition that you can only change yourself like is like a very key part of leadership. Because I have seen like good leaders recognize their strengths and weaknesses in everyone around them, and like inspires them to grow and pushes them to change, but doesn't like recognizes that they don't have control over other people's decisions, what they're doing. And if you if you want to if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself kind of situation.
Right. Like, which is tricky because I lean into that too far and I need to practice receiving support. There's I don't know if I've ever shown you this piece of paper. You cannot see it because it's very far away, but essentially this is called the pattern system and it comes from a guy named Jay Early. Let's go into the Psychotechnologies. So Jay Early works with internal family systems. And he made this list of dimensions of personality or dimensions of internal families. And I think he was trying to develop a deeper personality system. And then he got this far, published it and ignored it. But, let me give you a dimension here. So here's the dimension of self-esteem. So in the healthy side, you can have, I'm trying to pick an easy one. Okay, pleasure as a dimension. So this is in the inner critic domain. So you can either like pleasure and conscious consumption are the two like healthy sides. So sometimes you can enjoy and other times you can conscious consumption. So you can limit how much you're consuming. On the extreme, you have the indulgent. So you go too far when you're indulgent, possibly. And then on the other side is the inner controller, that you super restrictive. And so there's a healthy spectrum, big spectrum, healthy range in the middle, too far out, too much hedonism or too much restriction. Right? And so there's a whole bunch of these. So this is, I was saying the support one. Where's the support one?
This kind of reminded me of like archetypes and stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is similar. So the self. He's called it. There was some dimension where it is sort of permitting yourself to be cared for by other people, and then too far on the end is dependent on other people, but permitting yourself to be cared for, and then caring for yourself, and then strongly avoiding, like I have to do everything myself is a bit extreme. So you want to be in that healthy middle, where sometimes you can do things, sometimes you can accept support, and the extremes are unhealthy.
Yeah,
that was his proposal. Anyway,
because that's like your own. That's like your boundaries or something, or your membrane, or like your identity. Like it kind of gets into that.
Right. Well, interestingly, this pattern system, I would like to use it in a slightly different way to what he intended. He proposed that there's this healthy range, and then there's the unhealthy extremes, and we need to look at our unhealthy extremes and sort of bring them back to the healthy range. I would propose that what we have here is still the spectrum and still the ranges, but a measure of your comfort in all of these places. And so ideally you want to be able to be in any of these places and it can be okay. So if you need to be dependent on someone for a moment, you don't feel super guilty about it. You don't feel bad about it. You're just like, oh, this has to happen, and let it go. If you need to feel super autonomous, super alone, super like no one is going to help me but me, then you're okay with that as well.
And like, so you need to be able to move into both of these things.
Right. You need more like a fluidity across the whole range, as opposed to rely
on yourself, and you can rely on others, and others
right.
can rely on you.
Right. And it seems like from my perspective, healthy leadership is access to the whole range, as opposed to only staying within a certain dimension.
Let me think about that if it's true.
And
this is like healthy humans, I guess, or workers, people that live in the world.
Well, a whole bunch of developmental psychology stuff applies to.
This is competency.
Is it applied to business leadership development? Because those are the people who it costs them money if they can't work well with other people, right? And so when there's money involved, we put extra money up in order to convince us and to push us to work towards being healthier, working better with people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I actually think like it's funny you mentioned this in this episode, because I do think a lot of the leadership stuff is placebo effect. It's like saying we're going to spend a shitload of time and money for you to do this thing that you already know you can do, but nobody has validated that this is actually very important. So we're just going to spend resources until you get that this is important.
Well, look, if you have a manager that you are paying $500,000 to do a job, now there's 365 days a year, so they're being paid more than $1,000 a day to somehow steer the giant ship that is your company, right? This is CEO level, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And your manager, and you're like, oh, I can spend another $50,000 on some coaching, some leadership training to make sure that my $500,000 gets spent well.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do that, you know?
Yeah. No, it's definitely worth the calculus. I'm not, that's the thing. I'm not dissing this. I'm not saying, because we're talking placebo, I'm serious about the value of placebo. This is legitimately important. But I do think that I think that's a lot of what they're doing is like, things like even like trust or fearlessness or self-confidence or whatever, like all those things, like there is a point in the day, like all these things like they show up during the day and you could just choose to do it, but you're always like, no, this other thing is more important. And so I think a lot of this training is, yes, the other thing is important, but so is this thing, and you need to spend time and resources on this thing, even if it sounds like silly. Like leadership and trust and confidence and like things like that they're all very like silly and nebulous sounding, like don't worry about it, like
success building, dynamism,
yeah, like synergy, right?
yeah.
Like it's all like bullshit sounding words, but they're
So out of
actually like
touch, right?
important.
Oh yeah, entrepreneurship, innovation, like that
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah, openness, communication, like all these things are so, like, at least to me they sound so bullshitty, but like they're the difference between success and failure a lot of times, and large success or small or
Well,
advancing, like
the thing that I see is that someone has said this is the meaningful, right? The big blob. And we're going to like channel that into this buzzword that is communication. And someone has said, I will take this word, communication, and I will be like, I will teach you the communication, the thing. I will get you this thing, this communication thing. I will help you with that.
yeah,
I will
that's
solve
the
it
other
for
one
you.
they do when they
And that will help you
Yeah.
get the meaning that you're trying to get out of communication.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And if it's money in business, like communication will get you the money from the business. But this is what people do. We try and find words to the buzzword, the
Yeah.
the communication, the whatever other buzzwords it is, the synergy.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just impart meaning and convince people to throw money at us because we can give them meaning.
Yeah. Yeah, and but that's the other thing, like it's because the system itself is so nebulous and like crazy that like you'll have it, like you'll hit a point, like people be doing real stuff like the bottom line or profits, then they'll realize like, oh, actually like these communication or whatever is important, and then they'll be like, okay, we need to do something on communication, and then you get like bullshit people coming in saying like, oh, we know how to communicate, and they have like a speech that they practiced, and they don't actually like teach you the stuff. But then the people that are actually good at communication, I don't know, like those people still do exist. Like I've done this stuff, and like we do a really good job. Like we're like with like when I'm in there, we do a really good job. But like the sales and the marketing and the connections and all that stuff is the hard part. But like, yeah, like give me your employees for a day and they'll be way better at communicating the next day. But like, it's like, I can't tell you what the benefits are because I don't know what your company does.
Right. Well, it strikes me that the good developmental work is company specific. So I can't be like everyone needs, this is in my head, my difficulties. I can't be like everyone needs communication because I haven't met your company and what you do. And so I can't specify you need communication until I at least have a few sentences with you going like, oh, it sounds like you guys actually don't need communication, you need creativity. And so
it's almost always they need an environment where people can like actually do their job and not be like hounded or annoyed or whatever.
Right.
And what that means is very different. And it's also different for the people inside the company as well. But yeah, it's almost always like, it's like people have like, there's always like somebody who's like enforcing the rules or like the standards or the culture or something. But that's not really the thing. Like we were just talking about this. It's like good hearting. Where like it's like, okay, this is what we're doing and here's an approximate, like often when I'm creating rule systems or guidelines or things like that, it's an approximation of the thing that I want, because the thing I want is like ineffable.
Of course,
And
it always is. We only use
yeah,
words to point to give us an ineffable thing to point to.
yeah. So you create like general rules, guidelines, and like incentive structures so that it's approximately lined up and people get what's going on and they do the thing because that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. That's their job. And there's like a couple of people that care about it, and they like get everyone else to care about it. And you have a working system, and then people are happy, are proud to be part of that, and so they'll keep that alive. But then something goes wrong and you don't know what it is, because it's like the system gets large, and then that like sort of it builds resentment in different places where people can get their needs met. And so you want to be able to like create the system where people are willing to like work through what's going on, work through the problems. So you find, I think like with the business stuff, you just find like the major things. You find the major things to get things running better. Or like whatever. There's like a lot of things. It's like a lot of places, Depends. I don't know. This is like too nebulous stuff. Because it's like everything all at once. Speaking of everything all at once, I was listening to this Ram Dass.
Oh, big fan of Ram Dass. Yep.
Oh, cool. I've just discovered him. People keep talking about him, and but I finally showed up in my YouTube algorithms. Now I feel like it's okay to listen to him. And
he has a fascinating way of speaking. There's like a continuousness to his stories.
Yeah.
If you ever tried to like pause the video in between a story, you can't, because this story immediately flows into the next one.
Yeah. He's in like a constant
stream of experience somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I really admire that about him. I find a lot of like the actual like enlightened people are like that. I also listened to, I love Sadhguru. And he's like, depends on what he's doing, but like for one of them, he was like talking about education, and it was just this one thing he's saying that consists of like 50 different things, and they're all interwoven, and he's all like, he doesn't like lose track, like he's in his place, like he's in his like feeling the thing he's feeling, and his words are reflecting that, and his attitude, and like everything is just like, I guess, simpatico, they call it. It's like it's all one. But yeah, that's what I love about these. Like for me, like it just like there is that break there, right? Because I'm not in the continuous experience. But like, yeah, like these guys are amazing. So he was talking about, shit, I forgot what he was talking about.
You said everything.
Oh yeah, so he's talking about, so he has this thing for reality is to be in multiple realities at the same time. So that you're that you don't get caught up, or I don't forget what he said exactly because I got distracted by the idea. But it's essentially like you're playing, everyone like plays a game where they have like an ego or the thing they're doing or whatever, and do two of those at once. That way you're not stuck in either of them. And that's the joke.
Interesting. I think I find myself moving from reality to reality. Like the best place to notice this is deep in meditation or altered experience. Just how much, about every 10 seconds, maybe more often, we're in a different reality. And like for a normal person in a normal day, it'll be like, oh, I'm like on the sensations of my voice. And then now I'm in my visual field. And like, I'm paying attention to my visual field, and there's a voice going on, but I'm actually looking at Daniel. And then, I just noticed my hand is doing this rubbing my nose thing. Like, oh, now I'm the hand rubbing the nose guy. right? And I've just shifted 3 times, like my consciousness is slightly moved. And we do that a lot. We do that constantly. And sometimes if it's like a big jump, it's quite jarring. But for normal, mentally well people, our transition is seamless. And so we have it. The classic version is like the part of me that wants to lie around on the couch and the part of me that wants to go for a run, right? There's 2 parts of me and they're living in different realities. And it's that one's a bit, because it conflicts, it's like jarring, right?
Yeah.
But if it didn't conflict, it would be like, oh, I'm enjoying lying on the couch, and then now I feel like going for a run, and now I'm gonna go do that, right? That's what it's like to not conflict between parts of ourselves.
Yeah. Versus like, yeah. Because I think a lot of us live, I think like 2 of the most common ones that we live are something like work and play, let's say. And so like, it's like I have to get this thing done, I have to do this, I have to do that. So you're like playing this character that is a professional worker or something, or whatever it is that your job is. And then there's also you're playing the like, I'm a human and I want to enjoy life or relax or whatever, have meaning in my life.
Yep. And there's a good reason to separate the 2, right? If I'm working, I want to be working hard. I don't want to be distracted all the time. And if I'm playing, I want to be playing. I don't want to be thinking about work all the time.
Yeah.
There's like some benefit to the separation, and then there's also some downside, this internal conflict.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess like, but then like sometimes those will clash. Like, oh, I have 3 hours to do my work and now I have to do it even if I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other way around, like, oh, I can't relax ever because I'm always thinking about work. I don't know. I feel like I had a point, but I don't know what it was. Oh, but he suggested that you just you pick just 2 realities and try to live both of those. Which I thought is like not the correct path, but also an interesting exercise. Yeah, you should live in all of the realities or none of them.
I would say you should live in every single reality that's coming to you as they come, trying not to resist and trying not to cling. So try not to resist to the next one and try not to cling to the last one.
Yeah.
But I can see how stick to 2, like trying to always be in at least 2 can have its usefulness or can teach you something.
Yeah. It seemed like he was talking about it in a very like the way he was sharing it was a very like simple, just like a simple way of like he's like talking to like a lay person. Not
There's
people
a really good exercise of mindfulness of just which reality am I in, because we do switch a lot, and just keeping track of like, oh, where am I now? Oh, I zoned out, I'm thinking about a thing from last week, I'm in that reality.
Yeah. I think there's yeah, like it almost felt like it was like he was suggesting like a koan or something.
One that I keep track of is time. Like there's a part of my mind that's like, oh, we're running late, or oh, we have to be aware that we're running out of time or something. And so then it'll first come up as a like little thought in my head, like, oh, we should worry. And then I'll often look at the time because it's told me to look at the time. And just, there's always a choice there. I should look at the time now that I shouldn't ignore the voice in my head that said, oh, we're running out of time. I should look at the time. And then I look at the time and usually I'm like, oh yeah, that's the time. Cool. But I have a periodic reminder that telling me the time.
That's so interesting. I'm mostly in timelessness. For not most, like mostly as in like more than 50.
Well, that's why I need a reminder though, because I'm not paying attention to the time at all. And then something in me is like, oh, check the time.
Yeah, that's good.
Like once every hour or two. Like if I have a meeting in a couple hours, it'll be like, check the time. How much time do you have?
Yeah. For me, it's usually it's cool that we're talking about time now. For me, it's usually like, I'm like, what am I doing now? And then that shows up like, I don't know what I'm doing.
like an implied time dimension to that.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, what do I feel like doing? I feel like doing this. Like, can I do this? And then so then it's like, okay, well, what am I doing today? What's the next activity? Yeah, because I used to be a little bit much more compulsive around time. But I find I just get more stuff done if I don't worry about time. Unless like it, unless sometimes as you're like threading that needle, right? Like where it's like, okay, I got this amount of time to do this thing.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking about my battles. Like, what is my battle here? And I have a battle around there is so much stuff. There's like, once upon a time I wrote a to-do list that included everything I ever wanted to do, and there was like 1,000 hours on it. And that's like 1,000 hours is out of like a 40-hour work week, right? So 1,000 hours is 50 weeks in a year. 40-hour work week that's 2,000 hours, right? So you're roughly 6 months worth of work on my like, oh, I should get to that tomorrow or the next week, right? And then I tracked that over a couple months, and that list didn't get shorter. It got longer, and I was like, oh, this is a problem. There is like, talking about the weight of the world on my shoulder, there is 1,000 hours that are like, if I choose to think about them, are gonna like be really heavy. And so I'm always effortfully forgetting it so that I'm not carrying it right now, right? And then somehow, because I've forgotten it, because I need to be present here, then like recovering it, but cautiously, like, what was I gonna do again?
Yeah, noticing how it arises towards you.
Right. And so well, no, not so much noticing, but like I forget what I was gonna do. And so I need to like somehow recoup it, having deliberately forgotten it. Because there's just too much to juggle. I'm talking to Daniel right now. I can't think about all those things. So I've put them to the side.
Yeah.
So it's a dance between and I'm not saying I have a good strategy. This is something that I'm like, maybe should think more about. Deliberately forgetting and then recouping and remembering.
Yeah, like for me, I think, like, just to offer like sort of an alternate relationship with this phenomenon. For me, a lot of the times, like if I'm doing like a list like that, and then it starts to spiral out, where it's like, well, this isn't really a to-do list. It's like shit I want to do or something.
Well, I don't really keep a list anymore. Like, not a written list. It's sort of like somewhere on the top of my head. It's like, oh, I mean to do this soon, and I was planning to do that.
Yeah, for me, it's like there's this other thing that needs to be or wants to emerge that sort of hijacks my like whatever, like my list making, my like it comes to me as a desire to make a list, but really it's this other thing. And I've had that as well, where I'm like, okay, here's a list, like all the things, and then as I'm writing the list, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. And so then I like think about it for a while. And I think the last time this happened to me, I was like, oh, these are my dreams. Like, this is what I want to do. This isn't a list. This is just like the vision of how I want my life to be.
Nice.
And it transformed into that. So I'm like, okay, I don't need a list anymore, because I'm like, what is this vision? I'm like, what is this dream that I have? Let me explore this dream. And then it becomes like, because it's too big, like instead of it like a million pieces, it's this one thing that I want to do. And then I'm like, oh, well, now I only have one thing on my list that's work towards my dreams or make my dreams come true. And now that whole list thing is gone. And when it shows up again, it's like, oh yeah, I have this dream. And then like that will come to me, but it's like, it's not like I put away my dreams when I show up here. Like, my dreams are a part of me. And if they come up, then they're part of that. Because they should always be with you. Like, if you have like real dreams, they should always be, not always, but like they're invited to show up when they want.
I feel like I want to wrap around to like placebo pills that bring you your dreams.
You know what? Like, okay, now being serious, yes.
Dream pills.
Like dream pills. Like these are your dreams.
Oh, interesting. Right. So we give you a bottle. It's filled with pills. You write on the bottle what you're dreaming.
On a bottle. You use the punch out ones. So you can see, are you like, what is your status with your dreams? Like, you know, if you miss a couple days, like you can see you've missed, like you haven't taken your dream pills.
Yeah. And then also like, if you're committed to your dream, every time you take one, you're remembering the dream. You're inviting the dream back in. You're like,
yeah,
get me back to my dream. I'm gonna put more work into my dream.
Say a little prayer over it around your dreams, like, you know, like this, like maybe it's, you know, like this is the physical manifestation of my dream.
Yeah.
Like this is the only action I can take now is to like keep that dream alive and value it.
Well, this is also talking about branching into manifesting, or like we've mentioned it a few times. Can you will yourself fitness, right? Can you meditate on, I'm going to get fitter, on weight loss, right? I'm going to lose weight. I'm not gonna, right, what's gonna happen? So at first, nothing will happen, it won't work, right? But if you keep consistently willing yourself to do the thing, you're going to start walking, you're going to start eating less, you're going to start taking those actions that
are... yeah, the willing, I don't like, it's like, what does that mean?
I've done a little magic one waving over the word will, but
yeah, like if you're like, to say the opposite, like if you're constantly pushing out anytime anyone talks about fitness or anytime it comes up, you're like, no, can't do that, do this other thing, like you're not going to be able to deal, like this is going to get overwhelming and you're not going to be able to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you let it come in as it naturally comes in, then yeah, like how is that? Speaking of that, how's the running? Did you join the running?
I didn't group? It's been raining in Sydney. It has been raining nonstop for about 2 weeks.
Oh, do you guys have raining seasons? We talked about this, right?
This is yeah. We're in the El Nino, La Nina. Sort of La Nina is the rain pattern. So we're in the rain. We're getting about this much rain a day, which is a lot of rain.
That's a lot of rain.
Yeah. There's floods. There's towns being evacuated. There's like,
oh, shit.
There's a lot of rain. But it'll be done within a week, I think.
Yeah.
So I haven't gone running because it's been pouring down with rain.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. But like now it came up when we're talking about it, right? So it's like,
right. Yeah, it's on my mind.
Yeah, like it's not what we're doing, but it's not what we're doing. But there's like, I guess like these realities intersect in this way.
Yes.
It's like a little like spike. Does it feel like a spike in reality? How does that reality feel when they move with each other? It's like a wave. Like a crashing of a wave.
I have to really consider if I want to do the placebo pills.
Oh yeah.
It sells Psychotechnologies placebo pills.
I'm totally down for this. Could be our first product line.
We need to I think what I need to do is sit with the marketing vision and fill it out a bit more and then decide if I'm comfortable going ahead with that as a real object.
Okay. We could talk this out on stream as well, I think. Like that, then the story and the lure, you know.
It would be nice to dig up some studies about placebo, what we can show, what it can prove. It would be nice to
to be honest, this requires a lot of work that I don't really want to do.
But hey, look, I think it's a viable business product.
Yeah. And I always feel bad turning down viable business ideas because like I love business ideas. Like they're one of my favorite things in the world.
There has to be joy, and there's something about this one where it has a bunch of joy in there for me to participate in, to create the thing in the world. And you know, if I'm like, oh, I could start a car washing company and blah blah blah. I'm like, there's no joy in there for me, but this one has joy.
This is joy. Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that washing cars makes money, and I don't want to do it, but this one has joy in
it. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of my favorite ideas for sure. Yeah, like it's so good. Like it's at this like crazy intersection.
I'm drawn to the joy, you know, that I can put more joy into the world is good. That's like that everyone buying placebo pills and
maybe that's your first placebo pill is joy.
Joy. Yeah.
I think it'll be fun to try to come up with the names.
Yeah.
Like Joy Ceblo.
It's like I'm like I need to like grab like Happy Joy and like mush those words together and call it the first pill will be Happy Joy.
Happy Joy?
Or something, you know, like
Hapoy.
But you know, and then we need the one that's like the wake up pill. And so the name needs to be a cross between like energize and exercise and wake up and like envision.
And just wake up. Yeah, I'm terrible at naming. I always get other people to name the stuff.
And then we got a calming one. So there needs to be like a peaceful, relax.
Yeah. Like I bet you could take like words from other languages.
That's right. Yes.
Like put it to like Google Translate, like calm, and then like see what cool words show up. Or relaxed or whatever, or happy, joy, like, and then just like portmanteau it till it sounds like so it's aesthetically pleasing.
You want
and now you got a whole culture you can appropriate.
Relax. You want like the word ease. So I think what I'm trying to do in my head is like find the syllables that are clustered, because syllables are often clustered with emotions. So the excitement and the energize and it's got the E there that's like really quite.
Yeah. X is also really good
power, right?
Yeah, it's like a strong sound.
Right. Whereas the calm ones are like ease. And like relax. It's got an X in there, but it's got a so.
But it's at the end. Yeah, relax. And then you're like, oh, I fell asleep.
Right. So I'm trying to like cluster the syllables and then make it. Language is not my strong suit, but I'm like looking to cluster the syllables. In fact, which is a good idea. I can just find a friend who's has language as their strong suit and ask them what they would call the placebo pill for various energize, relaxer, relaxee.
Yeah. There's ones, I think there's websites that will help you come up with names.
Yeah. That's the other option.
Yeah. There's like a lot of good shit on the internet.
All right. I'm going to contemplate this one for a bit longer. Going to seriously consider.
Okay.
It's sort of like, you know, there's a rule of like, don't make any big decisions without like sleeping on it, like waiting a day. And if it comes back a day later, you're like, oh yeah, this one's not going anywhere. This one I have to do.
Oh, and dude, like if you do this, like I want to sell this as an EA cause.
Oh yeah. Like I would definitely like try and go the scientific angle and the like post-rationality angle, the psychotech angle. There'd be lots of angles on it.
Yeah, and like EA cause, we think we can give people qualities for nothing. Right. Just for free. Like we make a pill that makes people happy and has no side effects.
We can just call them happy pills and see what happens.
Happy pills.
Wild. All right.
Yeah. Psychotechnologies Live. Woo!